ITXWE. All right. Well, my name is Barry Moses, and I am a parent from the MEP homeschool program, and we're just here looking at some of the plants that are growing here at Drumheller Springs. This particular plant that I have in my hand is commonly known as the Camas. But as I was explaining earlier, I'm a member of the Spokane tribe, and in our language, the Spokane Salish language, we call this plant ITXWE. ITXWE. And the scientific name for this plant is Camas. And one of the things that I'm sure that you heard earlier is that this was a very good plant, as a staple food that people in this area have eaten for a long time. And it has this bulb that you see at the bottom that you can cook. And in the olden days, they used to cook them for 3 days in the ground. They would build ovens in the ground. They would dig a hole, they'd build a fire, and then they would take those, they would put hot rocks in there, and then they would cover that up, and then they would put bags and bags full of this ITXWE in there. And then they would cover that up with dirt, and they'd build a fire on top of that. And they would leave it there for 3 days. Well, there's a very interesting reason of why they would leave it there for that long. The way that the Camas is right now, it has, this is going to be really scientific, a scientific reason. This particular plant is filled with a sugar called inulin, which is indigestible to the human body. That means if you eat it, it doesn't, your body can't do anything with it, and then it just goes out. And so you can't survive if you just eat it plain like this. So you saw some of us eating that, you know, it was just to taste it. You can't, it's no good. But if you bake it for 3 days, what happens at the end of that 3-day period, those sugars will break down and they'll turn into sugars that our body can use. And now, how did they know to do that? I have no idea. But they knew that they had to cook it for 3 days. And at the end of those 3 days, then it turns very sweet. It's like sugar. And they would use it to sweeten foods and different things, you know, like that. And there's one method that I use. I can't build a pit oven every time I try to do this, but I'll put it in a crock pot, you know, for 3 days, and then it will turn black at the end of those 3 days as well. But we don't want to disturb this too much here, so we're not going to dig up a bunch. We're just taking a few to, for educational purposes. Now, one of the things that I explained to the folks that we were here, and I know that somebody from your group mentioned it as well, that if they have the white flowers, it's actually a different plant. Zygodinus elegans, also known as death camas. And if you were to eat one of the bulbs, and some people do eat them by mistake because the bulbs look the same, and they'll kill you. Yeah, and animals and humans have been known to die from eating those. And so the only way that you can really tell to be sure is to notice the flower. If it has the beautiful purple flower, then it's safe. If it has a white flower, then it's not safe. What happens if you dig one up and it doesn't have a flower? And then don't eat it because you don't know, right? I was just telling the other group, well, you might be lucky, you know, or you might not. So if you don't know for sure what any plant is, it's always good to not disturb it then.